Oh, the choppers are in. The choppers are in and here to do some business. Oh no. Oh, it's a mess. Oh, the zombies are running rampant. Oh god. Oh, the police are here. Oh, the police are here. Fucking SWAT team's here. Yep. Oh, the zombies are about to get it. Here we go. Oh, look at... Oh, yeah, here we go. Fucking do him. Do him in. Have it. Do him. Oh, fuck it. Yes, get it. Get it, zombies. Oh, no. Oh, you're overpowered. You're done. Oh, God. Oh, I got it. Here they come. Oh, my God. Oh, it's so exciting. Oh, I can't believe we get to review this one. Yes. Fucking yeah. What? What's that? We're doing the remake. We're doing the remake? Yeah. We're not doing the original. No. We're doing the remake. We're doing the remake. You can't be serious. Yeah, we're doing the remake. Fuck! Hello there, children. Welcome back to another episode of Was It Good Tho? These episodes won't be coming in as thick and fast as our other series because I like to do a little bit of research, gather my thoughts, play the game properly, actually review what's going on within the game, so I can give you guys the unbiased opinion of all the contents within the game, and then at the end of the video, tell you what I really thought about the game. Which for me today is actually going to be quite difficult because I have some very strong opinions about this game. Liam still has creative decisions over these certain videos that I do on my own. I have to be a little bit kind about this one, and then I will tell you how I felt at the end. I'll also tell you what Liam thought of the game too. So without any more messing about, I'm David, I'm half a Brotal recall. I can't believe I'm about to give the unbiased opinion about this game, but we're gonna do it. Cue the intro. What game could I review next for Was It Good Tho? What game hasn't been reviewed 1,000 times on YouTube already? What game hasn't been told how bad it is or how good it is and compared it to the original on YouTube 1,000 times? Fucking hell. I had a light bulb go off. Resident Evil 3 Remake. Of course I could do a Was It Good Tho for this. There are barely any videos out there about it. Now, technically, on the case, it does not say Resident Evil 3 Remake, nor does it say Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. But this is a remake. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if you're going to try and base the opinion of what this game turned out to be by saying, well, it's not really a remake because it doesn't say it on the case. This game is a remake. The amount of subreddits that I scrubbed through for the Resident Evil 3 remake is still unbelievable. It was filled with people that still do not know the difference between a remaster and a remake. Let's straighten this out once and for all. A remaster is a game that has been created to look better than the original. It doesn't matter if it's the HD editions of the Silent Hill games that were brought out for the PS3 or if it's the Medieval for the PS4. The game is exactly the same, nothing new was added, nothing was taken away from it. It is a remaster. All the content was kept exactly the same. A remake is where the original content is taken and changed in a lot of aspects or one or two aspects. Resident Evil 2 is a great example. They changed the way it played, the over-the-shoulder camera angles, the locations were kept the same, but things were added. Maybe a few locations were taken away, but not to change it so it was unrecognisable. See that? Look. That's Jill Valentine. See that? That's Carlos. See that? That's Nemesis. This is a remake. It doesn't say Resident Evil 3 Remake, but it is a remake. And do not get me started on the people that are trying to call this a reimagining. This is just a way of getting around the fact that you released a poor game that was based on a really fucking good game. Oh, sorry. Unbiased opinion. Let's continue. Not saying Resident Evil 3 isn't a remake of Resident Evil Nemesis is like Ridley Scott saying Prometheus wasn't a prequel of Alien. Fuck off. Yes, it was. Calm down. Getting ahead of myself. Got to calm down. Getting ahead of myself. I remember the Nintendo GameCube, when it was announced, was coming out with a release game of the Resident Evil remake. And this game played up to the original. It was just as good. They kept the concept. They kept pretty much every single location untouched. The fixed camera angles were there, the survival horror was still just as good as the original. They had even added in new areas to the game, new enemies, new puzzles to try and solve. I thought it was brilliant. After that Resident Evil remake, we got Resident Evil 4. Now this is widely acclaimed to be one of the best Resident Evil games ever made, for the fan base anyway. Personally, I liked it, but it just wasn't Resident Evil to me anymore. The only things really linking the series together is the fact that you've got infected people and you've got a guy called Leon Kennedy. For me, the horror aspect had disappeared from Resident Evil 4. It now wasn't about making you shit your pants at every turn, it was more a run and gun experience. So when they announced that Resident Evil 2 was getting a remake, I was beyond excited. Look, face of excitement. The game came out, we all played it. Oh my god, it was fucking fantastic. There are a few things that were taken away from the original, but the core of the game was there. The locations were there, the weapons were there, the characters were there, things had been developed upon, the graphics had been greatly improved. It was good. So when Resident Evil 3 was announced to be getting a remake, my god, we lost our shit. So after playing the Resident Evil 2 remake, we were already wanting a Resident Evil 3 remake. I wanted to see what Nemesis could do on next-gen graphics. First looks were released, the demo was released, etc. I didn't actually play the demo because I just wanted to play the game as a whole. I didn't want it spoiled for me in any way. I just wanted to go into the game and play it from beginning to end without knowing anything about it. I stayed away from most of the trailers. I think I watched the first announcement trailer and then just left it alone. I liked how Nemesis looked, I liked how they remodeled Jill, I liked Carlos, I liked everything that I saw in the first or second trailer. I couldn't fucking wait. I couldn't. And of course, after the Resident Evil 2 remake, what could go wrong? You thought they'd just take the exact same concept, but make it into Resident Evil 3 instead. They take the enemies, they take the scenarios, they take who you played, what you did, where you went, and just revamp it and put it all into this brand new game, and you thought, my god, this is going to be absolutely brilliant. All the disappointment. Go on, keep it together. No, I feel like I'm going to have to tie my hair up for this. There we go. So yeah, the opening scene is a dream sequence from Jill's point of view, wandering around your grotty apartment, you're tapped running in your bathroom for some reason, you look in the mirror, you start decomposing, you blow your head off. I imagine Jill's a little bit upset about something, post-traumatic stress from the mansion.
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
Anyway, you then wake up in the same bed. Same scenario, first person. Once again, you're walking around her apartment, the tap is on. Again, apparently Jill likes to leave taps on in her dream and in real life. I'm thinking Jill just likes to waste water. She's a water waster. She's a pizza waster at that much. You can see fucking leftover pizza on the side counter as she goes into the bathroom where her tap's still running. You are a resource waster, Jill. A resource waster. The phone rings. It's Brad. Brad is telling you that there is something coming.
You gotta get out of there right now!
Something that is looking for STARS members. Gee, I wonder who it could be. I'm thinking at this point, okay, Jill, probably get the fuck out of there. I'm sure she's thinking the same thing. When all of a sudden, this black plastic bag bounds through the wall and grabs her and starts tossing her about. I'll refer to him as the plastic bag in this sequence because he seems to be completely dressed in a black bin liner. This old boy has been terrorising Brad for a couple of hours now, I imagine. Umbrella has released him onto the city to dispose of STARS members, yet they thought that coating him in a black bin liner would have been the best way for him to see things, or hunt for things. I digress. Plastic bag. We'll keep going. Now, to me, immediately, this was... It wasn't a red flag, let's say it was an orange flag. Nemesis has been shown to you immediately. First 5 minutes of the game, there he is. Nemesis bursting through your wall, beating the living shit out of Jill. Nemesis was never introduced for a good half hour in the original game. I imagine the creators thought, everyone knows what Nemesis is, we all know that he's going to be hunting you in this game. It is a remake. It is a fucking remake. But everyone knows what Nemesis is, so they thought, well, we might as well cut to the chase. This thing is chasing you, you're gonna have a bad time. So again, I ignore it, I keep going with it, I'm like, oh, it's a different spin on the original story, we'll just keep going. Nemesis then proceeds to play with his food. By this I mean, he picks up Jill a lot, he slams her about, he does a bit of the wrestler facade, gets shot in the face a couple of times, and then allows her to run out of the apartment. After all this madness happens and you eventually escape Nemesis with all these little quick time features, I'm not a fan of the quick time, I hate the quick time, I just think it should fuck off. Quick time is a lazy way of filling time. Stop doing it, it's not doing anyone any favours. Let us play the fucking game. After all this madness, you escape into the alleyway and you meet Brad for the first time. He's a little bit flustered to say the least. With the Nemesis, he is a killing machine. Generally, he kills his first target that he's going after first, then he moves on to the next one. Why didn't he finish off Brad like he was meant to, and then go for Jill? So after a bit of catching up with Brad, you run through a few of the city streets, a few zombies start attacking you, you end up in a bar. What happens? All the zombies start attacking. What then happens? Brad gets killed. No, I don't like this. No, don't like that. I know why the creators did it, they wanted to mix things up a bit. You're expecting one thing, you're going to get something else. But don't take Brad's death out of the equation. His death was pinnacle to the introduction of Nemesis. Yes, we've already had Nemesis introduced to us by him kicking through Jill's wall. Not the fucking point. I was kinda hoping to see Brad end his demise in a more graphic HD 4K way. Alas, he was chewed to death by zombies. I also think the creators chose to have Brad chewed to death by zombies here is so that later on they could tie it into Marvin being bitten by him, so we all go, oh no, that's how Marvin got bitten. It was Brad all along. No one gave a shit. Marvin got bitten. It could have been any zombie. It didn't have to be Brad. This was done after a couple of run-ins with old Nemi boy, which include a quick time sequence of you driving a car into him, throwing him off the top of a building, Jill would have died here, having him blown to fuck by Carlos.
Hey! Fuckface!
Oh, we were introduced to Carlos very early on. Carlos then takes you to the train. Yes, the train that will get you out of the city. This train is not introduced in the original until a good halfway through the game. It's the part that bridges you from one part of the game to the next. Originally, the train was a big puzzle. You had to go all throughout Raccoon City trying to find a fuse, some gasoline, a wire, running into Nemesis numerous times, running into obstacles numerous times, running into numerous puzzles to try and sort this out to get the train running. In this one, it's sort of a, we need these things to make the train run. Go fucking do it. There is something that I quite liked at the beginning, which I thought was going to tie into the gameplay a little bit puzzle-wise, but led to nothing. Right at the beginning, in your first little save room, you come across the clock puzzle, where you need to collect 2 little gems, which you would then place into the clock diagram, which would open up the areas to the train and the petrol station. Both quite big subjects within the original game. But seeing as we had already been to the train and knew what our mission was,
let's start by restoring power. I'll navigate you to the substation once you hit the main road.
right from the first 10 minutes of the game, we were served another plate of pure disappointment. So instead of this being a simple puzzle to progress your game to the next step, all this has been reduced to is a lockbox for some weapon upgrades. Not to mention a complete misfire of what the creators probably thought was fan service. Nice tie-in, would have been nice to see it play as it did in the original. Oh well. So essentially the first portion of the game is exploring the Raccoon City area where you have to go and try and get the train powered up. That's it. Just get the train powered up. There's not much else you need to do. There are one or two throwbacks to the original. Immediately after you've left your first save room, you have to go and find a fire hose to put out a fire. This mechanic isn't introduced for a while again in the original Resident Evil 3, but it's thrown to you straight away in this one. It's little throwbacks like this that made me start to realise that it's going to be nothing like the original. They were going to give you a few nostalgia moments, but essentially this is pretty much a brand new game. With the original game, I remember the appearance of the power station. That does make an appearance in this version of the game. It's actually made more irritating and longer than it needed to be, but the power station is there. In the original game, the power station was just there to serve as a location to collect one of the items you needed to power the train up. In the remake, it serves as the entire train mission. You get to the power station, you power it up, job's done. All you then need to do is create a path for the train in a different location. Which leads me on to the next point. That puzzle, while I had trouble with it because I'm a dumbass, in hindsight is far too easy. So with this being the only key puzzle in the first portion of the game, getting the train running, we missed out a ton of locations. The petrol station no longer exists. The restaurant where you meet Carlos and have a face-off with Nemesis no longer exists. The newspaper office no longer exists. Instead, we're treated to a 10-minute slog around a power station where you have to run around flipping switches and dodging weird little spider things. That's it. After quite some time of running around without Nemesis making an appearance, you're kind of thinking, alright, he's starting to build a bit of tension here. I'm sort of waiting for this big boy to start busting through some walls and fucking me up good and proper. We walk out into an open-ish area with a nice big blank wall. And you're thinking, I know what's about to come. Lo and behold, Nemi Boy fists his way through the brick wall, where you will then be pursued by him for a maximum of 30 seconds to 2 minutes, depending on how quickly you can get away from him. You will then proceed on to map out a route for where the train will be going on to next, and once you leave the area, you will be attacked once again by old Nemi Boy. We're also forced into the sewers in the first portion of this game for some reason, which introduces us to the hunters. Not these guys. No, a weird kind of hunter. The hunter gamma kind of looks like it was a frog that was then infected, which got big and strong. Believe it or not, the hunter gamma actually existed in the original Resident Evil 3. except they looked like normal hunters but were capable of swallowing you whole when you got too close to them or if you were on danger. Whereas this creation of the Hunter Gamma in the Resident Evil 3 remake, I think they tried to span together the Hunter Gamma from the original Resident Evil 3 and the Gravedigger to make it one enemy so people didn't get too upset about the absence of both, but instead confused the piss out of most of the people playing the game the first time. These aren't hunters, just you should have called them something else. This is now where the game will force you to climb a flaming building that Nemesis has set fire to with his brand new flamethrower, forcing you into a series of quick-time events that literally take zero brain power, culminating in a forced boss battle at the top of the building that a chimp with a pencil between his teeth could finish in 2 minutes flat. You'll then be treated to a fan service appearance by Kendo in the gun shop. Lovely touch. Sometime after, you'll be attacked by Nemesis again in the streets, and that's the last time you'll hear from him. At least, of course, when you're forced into another boss fight with him 3 more times later on down the line. Essentially, after this point, Nemesis is then reduced to a couple of quick-time events or cutscenes. From the original, you remember Nemesis being impending doom. He was anxiety-inducing. You just didn't want him around. The second you heard him yell stars, or you heard a window smashing and the music starting, you knew that you were in for a bad time. With this, it was, I'm a bust through a wall, I'll beat you about a few times, gonna chase you through the city limits for a bit. But that toy shop, if you enter that toy shop, I swear to God... Oh, you bastard. You've entered the toy shop. How am I gonna get you now? Get out. Get out of the toy shop. Stop fucking about in there. No, I'm just gonna stand here. I'm not moving. Not moving. You get out. You come out here. Fucking do it. Get out of the toy shop. Mr. X would have pummeled me by now.
X gon' give it to you.
Save rooms are off limits, we know that. The toy shop weren't a save room. He won't enter the toy shop. Will he fuck? But he'll blow the fucking head off the top of it and have that roll towards you instead. That he's okay with. Personally, I found during the course of this game, zombies pose more of a threat to me than the Nemesis did. Once you get introduced to the actual hunters from the original games, they're a more formidable foe than the Nemesis is. In fact, there were times where I'd rather have come up against the Nemesis than come up against the hunter again. Here is an example of Nemesis in the original game. Stars! Stars. And here is an example of Nemesis in the remake. No! Stop that! Stop it! No, I don't like it. You're shit. Back off, mate. Yeah, I'm going to show you how it's really done. No, fuck you on. No! Yeah. I'm fucking better than Nemesis. That was some high quality filmmaking. Nemesis didn't get his own story in this. He kind of got a subpar role in a game that was about him originally. It's probably why they called it Resident Evil 3 instead of Resident Evil Nemesis, because it's just Resident Evil 3 with a bigger nuisance. Also, the police station. Jill, why didn't she go to the police station? That's right. She got the train running. She then went to the train. And then Carlos paid the big man and went, you guys go on ahead, we've got to go back to the police station.
Okay.
I didn't like this. One of the biggest portions of the game of introducing Nemesis to us was the police station. Yes, Nemesis has already been introduced to us, so it doesn't seem like the police station is a good place for Jill to go anymore. Not the point. One thing I'll say about the police station in this game is how true it was to the Resident Evil 2 remake. The corridors were the same. You got to see how the police officers in the first liquor corridor ended up there. That was kind of cool. And Carlos's hilarious reaction to the special key doors.
Now here's a weird fucking door.
What I didn't like is that it still gave you the locker combinations and it still allowed you to go into areas that Leon or Claire will visit in the Resident Evil 2 remake to then take their items. Carlos also takes these items. Who the fuck restocked the lockers? Who the fuck replaced the padlocks? What the fuck was going on? Between Resident Evil 2 and 3, we know they cross over at some point, but it made no sense. They may as well have just kept Carlos's portions what they needed it to be. A run and gun operation through the police station to find the scientist, because that's all it was. They didn't need to pick up items. When you played as Carlos in the original, they loaded you up with a fuck ton of bullets and went, go out there, kid. fuck some monsters up. This was the same. They gave you an assault rifle, a ton of bullets, first aid spray, the lot. The lockers didn't need to be interfered with. Did Marvin just walk around the police station going, Carlos, you took that one, I was leaving that for Leon. Fuck's sake, man. No! And once you do finally get to the train sequence, before Carlos fucks off to the police station, you do get the original footage. But obviously it's not the original footage, they've made it look more awesome. Nemesis attacks the train, the already half-dead Mikhail blows himself up to save everyone else on the train and to get rid of the Nemesis, in which doing so, the train derails. And I'm thinking, oh, this is where we come to the clock tower. We did not come to the clock tower. For me, this is where things started to look like they were rushed a bit. Jill pulls herself up off the floor, she radios Carlos, she tells him everything that's happened. The giant beastie known as Nemesis falls into the water and Jill says a really cool line.
Bitch can't even swim.
Well, she says a sort of cool line. But no clock tower! The clock tower ceases to exist, just like every other location that was in the original game. Instead, we skip right to what would have been the final clock tower battle with Nemesis, where he's doing this weird carousel runny abouty thing around all of these buses and cars where you just have to fire mine launcher rounds at the buses and then open fire on him when he falls off. What happens next is what does technically happen in the original. Nemesis infects her as he's dying. She passes out and Carlos comes to her rescue, at which point Carlos then takes her to the hospital. Jill's been infected, Carlos finds her, takes her to the hospital. We skip out a whole other portion of the game. In doing this, there is now no graveyard, there is now no courtyard or the park or all the other locations that would lead you to the factory at the end of the game. Instead, what you've got is another playable operation as Carlos where you have to run around the hospital trying to find the vaccine bases to save Jill. And this is where those guys are introduced. This prick. So like the original, I guess that stays true to the game. The hunters are originally given to you in the hospital. That's about it. I mean, with Carlos in the original, you do go around the hospital trying to find the vaccine and all the components for it to help Jill. Nikolai ends up blowing the hospital up, at which point you return back to Jill to give her the vaccine, at which point Jill takes over. In this, we're treated to a really tedious trape around a hospital trying to find the vaccine. This wasn't my favourite part of the original anyway, but we're giving it again. It doesn't seem to last too long, providing you can figure out where you're going quickly enough. Once you've given the vaccine to Jill, you're then presented with a defend the castle operation. I don't like these. Resident Evil doesn't have them. Sorry, Resident Evil now does have them. It's become the norm, but for the people that love the original series, this isn't something that should have happened. First off, they'll start putting zombies at you, one at a time, through each window, shoot them, not too difficult. And then eventually you end up getting the hunters unleashed on you. The hunters were the worst thing this game could throw at me. To me, the Carlos segment seemed forced and pointless. As far as the game goes, I feel like they served to fill time. That's all they were there for. After all that, we get the obligatory, there's a nuclear rocket coming towards Raccoon City to level it all to get rid of the infection. We know this good and proper. It's pretty much happened in all of the Resident Evils. Once you regain control of Jill, it's sort of this forced exit towards the end of the game. As mentioned before, you don't get the park, you don't get the graveyard, you don't get the puzzles and the journey to the factory where you end the game. You find a door at the bottom of the hospital that leads you to the factory. I haven't really mentioned Nikolai throughout this whole experience because he's the same tosser as he was in the first game. Not much about him has changed, except when you reach the part after the hospital in the basement where the factory is, you have to then deal with Nikolai and him hiding fuses around the place for you to escape. This was tedious. This was pointless. This was weird. Nikolai's got nowhere else to go apart from further into the factory where I'm going anyway. So he just hid fuses for you to find and then get up to his current location. By doing this, you find Tyrell. You get to see Tyrell die. Tyrell, the guy that I don't even think was in the original. Oh, no. There he is. There's Tyrell. Dead. And then after this point, in the original anyway, once you found the factory, I can remember them making it quite a slog to the final steps of the game. With this, it was kind of like, go down there, go up there, you're done. Wait. Here's a corridor of hunters for you to deal with. Yeah, you can deal with a corridor of hunters. Only 2 will jump out, but you knew that was going to happen because they were all lined up in glass tubes along the runway. Also, in the original, Jill collects an MO disc for all the data to unlock the doors. Logical. The remake is still set in 99. She finds a USB stick, which I assume has quite a large capacity on it considering it holds all the locks and codes on it to open doorways for her. Mass data USB sticks didn't exist in 99. Good one, Capcom. And that final battle with Nemesis, sorry, the final two battles with Nemesis. The second to last battle with Nemesis in the original was actually quite difficult. Not in the sense of it was piss hard to defeat him, but you had to keep running around in a circle to shoot taps to pour acid on him, which would then weaken him. In this, it was this dude going to be running around in circles again like he did back where the clock tower was meant to be, and Carlos is going to shout at you, he's behind turbine number 7. Number 7, Nemesis is behind it. To which then you would continue to shoot the red lights and it would electrocute him and then you just unload into him. It looks nothing like Nemesis. It may as well have been a different enemy, and then they just start throwing zombies at you again. And then when you come to the final Nemesis battle, you go, this guy's just been melted down into acid. Acid doesn't evolve a creature, it turns him into mush. He should be a mushy boy. Nothing but pulp. At least in the original, he was shit out into a waste disposal area, never to be seen again, to then re-emerge as this horrible thing that was technically still living. He wasn't crumpled down in acid, it was just dirty water. I guess in this universe, acid makes infected creatures a lot larger and look more like an alien xenomorph. Not to mention the battle that followed. They took the railgun from the original and put it in Jill's hands. I'm not a physicist or I don't deal in science or anything, but if I held that thing and tried to fire something out of it, it would snap me out of my spine. I'm all for video games promoting the weird and wonderful. It's not real life, it's all about having fun. But for a game that's sort of trying to focus on the serious side of real life problems during a zombie epidemic, you can't then go start putting electric railguns that blast holes through monsters and walls and not expect Jill to have her pelvis through her earlobes by the end of it. While these games are not realistic, at least in the original, they said, there's a big fucking gun, turn it on, push the battery packs in, keep firing it at the dickhead. Admittedly, I did enjoy the battle between me and the Nemesis if I imagine it wasn't Nemesis. If I imagine it was just another wall of flesh thing that Resident Evil like to do with their franchise, but not the Nemesis, it was enjoyable. You fire the weapon off, you shoot a few pustules that are bursting out of this massive prick, you push the batteries in, shoot some more pustules, take the railgun out, fire it through his face, job's a good un. But that's not Nemesis. That's not my Nemesis. And then we're introduced to the cliche ending of Nikolai being a bellend and shooting the virus, and you're never going to discover what's going on, and people don't care. By this point, I don't think a lot of people cared. In fact, at this point, I think a lot of people were thinking, fuck, I've done this really quickly. I wonder if I got an S ranking. No one cared about what they did in the story or where they came from, what they were trying to achieve, or where they're going to lead on to next. By the end of this game, people were literally going, fuck, that was really short. Bet I've got the S rank in. Once you make the groundbreaking decision to shoot Nikolai in the chest, Carlos becomes a little bit wounded. We'll go with a little bit wounded. You then both hop onto the helicopter. Nikolai says if you fly off without him, you'll never hear the secrets. Jill whips a very smug response,
I don't mind a little detective work.
basically stating she don't give a shit, and they fly off into the sunset. Probably to make another shitty remake. That was the problem with this game. I had been looking forward to it so much that it sort of upset me to play it because I didn't want to admit it was a bad game. I think when you've spent that much money and hyped up something that much that you've been looking forward to so much, that when you eventually get to play it and it's not reaching your expectations, you are afraid to admit that it's a bad game. So kind of what I'm going to do here is look at the two sides of the coin kind of thing. Resident Evil 3 Remake was an okay game, providing you ignore the fact that it's called Resident Evil 3 and that it's based on the original, because it's not. This is not based on this at all. The name's there, the character's there, the monster's sort of there, everything else is a write-off. The only thing worse than playing this game is playing it for a second time just to get the footage for the video that I'm making right now. This is not a remake of a game we loved. This is a hashed, rushed, forced remake of a game trying to promote Resident Evil Resistance. Did you all forget about the game that came free with Resident Evil 3? I think that's what they were trying to push out the door. I think Resident Evil 3 was just something to get people to buy it. So basically, it was a good game if you can forget that it has anything to do with the Resident Evil franchise. If you're into the third person running and gunning experience, it was a great game. But other than that, it fell short of what the remake should have been. Resident Evil 2 was masterclass in comparison to what this was. Resident Evil 2 Remake is a epitomal example of how remakes should be done. You change it just enough to get new audiences, but you do not change it enough to stop the original lovers of the franchise playing it. Resident Evil 3 Remake is a masterclass in showing you how to piss your original fans off. You don't take a Resident Evil game, shove it down people's throats with marketing to say this is a remake, and then go, ha! Got ya! It's not a fucking remake. It's a complete hash of something that should have been a remake, but only has the characters and a monster that was from the original. And even he's shit! I like the designs, I liked the enemies, I liked the characters and how they were remade, how the zombies were mastered, how they, if you shot them, they fell apart in pieces. But the MGL grenade launcher got me. The name of that really got me. Kids in the class, the back, can you tell me what MGL stands for? Multi-grenade launcher. That is correct. What? Yeah, it's silly. Because once you put all of that together, it's called an MGL grenade launcher, which is a multi-grenade launcher grenade launcher. Brilliant. Are we going to talk about Jill's costume? Everyone was talking about Jill's costume. I wasn't disappointed. To be honest, I thought what she was wearing in the original was very impractical. Who the fuck runs around Raccoon City with a sweater tied round their waist, in a skirt and knee-high boots? No. Impractical. I realised she was blown out of her apartment building, but that's not the point. Change your fucking clothes. I mean, in this one, at least they made her look normal, like a regular police officer who is bound for battle, trying to fuck people up, willing to run in comfort. Yes, I know some prepubescent boys were very upset about this. And the worst bit is that they gave you it as either a DLC or an unlockable costume. And people still weren't fucking happy. Why? Because her skirt had been turned into 2 big leg holes. I feel people were more upset about this because when she bends down to crawl for air vent, you can't see right up her cooch. There are some really depraved gamers out there. Pornhub exists for a reason. Speaking of which, I hear a bunch of modders just made her completely naked for the entirety of the game. I mean, what are you doing? You're playing a game, you want to bust the nut. Can't you wait until afterwards? Can't you do it before? Drain your sack before you play Resident Evil 3. At least then it might stop some impure thoughts about Jill Valentine. At least the people that were complaining about Jill's costume not being like the original were treated to her being deep-throated by a weird bug at the back of the electrical company. Capcom, that was fucking vile. We saw what you did there. One thing near the beginning of the game that I did actually really enjoy was seeing the weird dude screaming and shouting about how he's not going to be eaten to death. He's just going to climb up inside of the van, close the doors, and fucking stay there. He is having none of it. We're also 95% sure that that guy, the actor, voiced the same guy in the original Resident Evil 3. You know, the prick that climbs into the back of the van right at the beginning of the game. Another interesting fact, if you keep telling him to come out of the van over and over again, on his last final words, he utters the exact same words that he said in the original Resident Evil.
I'd rather starve to death in here than be eaten by one of those undead monsters. Now leave me alone!
But we're here to answer one thing by the end of the video. Was it good though? No. No, I don't think it was. As a game that isn't called Resident Evil 3, I could have gotten behind it. I wouldn't have bought it. I'd probably have watched videos on it on YouTube, but I wouldn't have bought it. It was marketed as a remake of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I bought it. I wouldn't piss on fire to put it out. That said, Liam likes it to some degree. Liam wasn't a huge fan of the original. He didn't play it solidly. I did. And I can see why people do enjoy this. But as a remake, you can just fuck off. No, don't do that. If you're going to remake something, make it like the original. Follow suit. First Resident Evil Remake, perfect. It added things, but it kept things the same too. Resident Evil 2 Remake, it changed a few aspects, it moved the things round. But it still kept the core gameplay and almost all the locations intact. Resident Evil 3, you shit the bed, my friend. Until next time.